Hey everyone, and thank you for tuning in to the latest Hurricane Tracker app audio update. Excuse me, video update. Been a long day, guys. Wanted to spend a couple minutes and give you guys an update on Major Hurricane Irma. Hope everybody is doing well. We send our thoughts and prayers out to everybody in the Caribbean who has been adversely impacted by Irma during the last 24 hours. Truly some devastating pictures coming out of the region there. Here's a look at the latest satellite loop on Irma. The good news tonight is the center is the core of the storm with the strongest winds is passing just to the north of Puerto Rico. So those of you in Puerto Rico, you will have tropical storm force winds throughout the night with some possibly low end hurricane force winds, 70 to the 90 mile per hour range. So hurricane warnings are in effect. And of course, it does look like, based on satellite information, that Irma may be trying to strengthen a little bit further as it moves just north of Puerto Rico. I do want to look at the current forecasted wind bands. You can see here over Puerto Rico, the orange area on the southwest side of the island is tropical storm force winds. The blue area is winds above 58 miles per hour. And then the red area near San Juan in the north and eastern part of the island would be where the projected hurricane force winds are expected to be. So most of the islands should receive winds, I'd say, less than 65 miles per hour, but to the north and east, the northern and eastern coast will definitely receive hurricane force winds, and that's why the warnings are in effect. Irma is still a powerful Category 5 hurricane with winds of 185 miles per hour. It's located basically about 130 miles. Let me refresh this here. I think that's yesterday's advisory. I apologize. Yeah, center's located 55 miles to the east-northeast of San Juan, Puerto Rico. It's moving to the west-northwest at 16. Pressure is at 914 millibars. Hurricane watches have been issued for the northwestern Bahamas this afternoon, and we also have hurricane warnings in effect for the central and the southeastern Bahamas, including the Turks and Caicos. And here's a graphical view of all the watches and warnings. You can see the entire northern coast of Hispaniola is under hurricane warning, tropical storm warnings on the southern side and the western side of Hispaniola, as well as hurricane watches up for the central and eastern portions of Cuba, and hurricane watches as well for the northwestern Bahamas. We do expect that sometime tomorrow, the National Hurricane Center will be issuing hurricane watches for the Florida Keys and other portions of the Florida Peninsula. And this is the latest track from the National Hurricane Center. Basically, the National Hurricane Center calls for Irma to move west-northwest through Saturday and then begin to turn towards the north sometime on Sunday. And where that turn occurs is going to be very important for South Florida. Basically, right now, the National Hurricane Center has this system turning and moving right into southeastern Florida. And yes, the M stands for Major Hurricane, not Miami. We've had a few questions about that. And I think the Hurricane Center's latest forecast has Category 4 winds here for southeast Florida. So even if the system tracks a little further to the east, as some of the guidance has been showing, there would still be impacts across the Florida Peninsula because of the sheer size of the storm. So we hope everybody there is listening to their local emergency management officials and taking this storm seriously. We're getting within the 3 to 4 day window here once we get to tomorrow. Once you get within the 4 day range, you don't see the models have any big shifts like you do in the 5 to 7 day range. They may shift a little bit by a couple hundred miles to the left or the right, but you won't see a big shift way out into the Central Gulf or way out east into the Atlantic. So at this point, we're all feeling pretty confident that Florida is going to sustain some type of impact from Irma. Whether it's a direct impact, as the Hurricane Center's forecast shows, remains to be seen. But the latest European model, which is the one we like to go to, it's been the most consistent. It is showing this system making landfall Sunday morning as a very strong hurricane, moving up the eastern side of the Florida Peninsula and then possibly into coastal Georgia and South Carolina as a second landfall, and then bringing torrential rains and even some Category 1 hurricane force winds inland into portions of the southeast. The latest European ensemble, a little tighter agreement than we've seen over the past couple days. It is still possible for Irma to track just off the West Florida coast or just off the East Florida coast. But the average, the mean, definitely is pointing towards the Florida Peninsula. And you could see most of the models here do bring, most of the European ensemble models do bring Irma into the southeastern United States. So we have high alert levels for those of you in the Bahamas, up into the Florida Peninsula. Chances of impact are increasing. We do think it's going to track within this yellow cone and that there's a high chance of impacts. And that is outlined here on our risk potential map. And we'll be upgrading some of these orange areas probably to red by later tonight. And at this moment, I'll take a couple moments to ask and answer some questions if you want to throw some our way. And but the most important thing, we want everybody to know this is stronger than Andrew. This is stronger than Katrina. In fact, there hasn't been a storm this strong in the Atlantic since 1980. Okay, so it's been over 20 years, been a long, long time. Tampa, good question. Like I just showed, it could still track up the west coast of Florida. That's not the forecast, but Tampa, you're still within the cone. You could still see tropical storm force winds or even hurricane force winds. Even Orlando, same thing goes for Orlando. We can't rule out any impacts at this time. ERC, IWA replacement cycle, yes, it will likely go through probably another IWA replacement cycle here in the next 24 hours. And if there's any changes in any intensity, it would be due to an IWA replacement cycle. Pinellas County, I believe that's near Tampa. You're still within the cone, still at a pretty high threat of being impacted by this storm, so you can't let your guard down yet. Same thing goes for those of you in coastal sections of Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina. This storm is generally headed your way, so you need to keep your eye on it. Same thing for Daytona, Jacksonville Beach. Again, I just showed the latest European model, which is in line with the forecast from the National Hurricane Center. By Monday morning, here it is sitting off Daytona Beach and then moving up the coast along Jacksonville as a major hurricane still. So pretty much the entire Florida Peninsula is going to be impacted. The only part of Florida that may come out unscathed is the Florida Panhandle, unless it should go west on the west side of Florida and into the eastern Gulf, which is looking a little less likely at this point. Yeah, Irma's going to be different than Harvey. Harvey moved inland to Texas and stopped and stalled, dumped a ton of rain, several feet. Now, Irma's still going to drop 8 to 15 inches, but Irma's going to be more of a catastrophic storm surge event of up to 15 to 20 feet water rise and a wind impact event. We could see places across the Florida Peninsula sustain heavy structural damage, especially where the eye makes landfall, where the core of the storm goes, where you get the 150 mile per hour wind. So please, if you're in Florida, take the storm seriously. It is coming your way, and within a couple of days, we will know what the specific impacts will be once we get a little bit closer in time. Check with your local emergency management officials, your local media sites for all the latest evacuation, whether it's a voluntary evacuation order or mandatory. They know your area the best. Check in with your local emergency management officials. Go to weather.gov, put in your zip code, and that'll get you the exact forecast and conditions as forecasted by your local weather service office. So weather.gov, put in your zip code. That is some great, valuable information. I can't say how valuable that website is. FloridaDisaster.org. Thanks for sharing that. That's another good site. But we'll be here throughout the duration of the storm with the Hurricane Tracker app with all the latest information. We thank you for watching, and we hope everybody stays safe. Everybody along the path is in our prayers, and we'll do everything we can to keep you guys updated. Thanks for watching, and enjoy your evening.